My story probably very unnaturopathically started on a winery tour is really the moment. You know how you have the a moment, and it was on a winery tour in between wineries, probably after too many samples. And I guess I'll preface that story a little bit because that's probably a weird place to start. But that was the moment. But we'd been trying sort of for 6 months or more, and I was a fit, healthy naturopath married to a fit, healthy doctor. We'd got all this information that, when you're younger, that how easy it is to fall pregnant, how careful you must be. So I had a regular cycle, kind of assumed getting pregnant would be easy. So yeah, 6 months into our journey when it wasn't happening, probably about 8 months by then, I was really starting to think, okay, what's going on? And why I bring the winery tour into it is because I remember vividly being in the Adelaide Hills and we were going on this tour, and I thought, oh, I won't drink anything. I'm just going to have water. I'm going to be really good because I might be pregnant. And I got my period that morning. If anyone else is trying and can resonate with when that period arrives and you just feel gutted and frustrated and angry and all those things, and then someone was handing me wine. So yeah, I know that's not the right thing to do. Absolutely. As a naturopath, I know even more so that's not the right thing to do. But it was, I guess, as I said, driving between wineries, and I'd started researching as a naturopath. I started researching, okay, what can I do to help me conceive? And I was looking up all the nutrients, and my husband used to travel a lot. So I was seeing prenatals overseas, which provided choline and activated folate and all these things that weren't available in Australia. And I really started reaching out to researchers and finding out more about what I could do, because my background was in product development, creating a vitamin range for a large pharmaceutical company. So I was traveling between wineries, staring out the window, really just feeling a bit crappy, really. And as anyone else who's trying to conceive knows, you don't tell everyone why you're feeling crappy because you just don't talk about it. And yeah, other friends sitting opposite me, I can't remember how the conversation started, but I blurted out that I'm going to create a prenatal supplement because what we have here is not good enough. And I just started launching into what I hadn't even articulated to myself that this is what I wanted to do, really. But the plan all just landed in my head in that moment. And they were doctors who were on the tour with us, and of course they just threw it back at me. No, what a crazy idea. You can't go up against big pharma. That's ridiculous. And it's weird, but the feedback just washed over me. I was like, no. I ended up coming back, researching what I could do. It said I had a background in product development. I knew the product development space, so I wanted to look at the key nutrients that I needed. I wanted it to be creating life. I wanted it to be about life, which is what I wanted to create. So I jumped into Google and searched all these names for life and came up with Zycia, which means life. And that's how I created my company, Zycia Natal Nutrients, and my prenatal supplement, which contained everything that I wanted to. And then from there, I was still contacting researchers and speaking with researchers from Italy to New York to Adelaide, and was really heartened by they were getting back to me, the feedback they were giving me. And that's how my Conceive Baby podcast then started, because I'm like, I need to share this research. This just can't be in medical journals. This needs to be out there in the public. So I started the Conceive Baby podcast. I started the Conceive Baby website where these researchers helped write articles and provide information. I was just really wanted to not only help myself, but help other people, because I thought, hey, I have access to all this information and yet other people don't. So fortunately, using the existing expanding knowledge that I had, we soon conceived our gorgeous son, and not long after, our beautiful daughter. But that journey really instilled me with such passion to really pay it forward and help other people that were in the same situation. And then from there, a lot of people then wanted to see me as a naturopath and work with me personally. And I had young kids, so I didn't do that for quite some time. But then I've probably been seeing patients directly now for about 6 years and work all over Zoom. And so I see patients from, all over the world and helping them create their babies and seeing that personal So getting the baby photos, getting the emails, getting the excited messages just is the best feeling. And now I also run a group program called Your Fertile Pantry, which is probably one of my most popular programs that people come through, that I go through what to do over 6 weeks to help you create healthy eggs, healthy sperm, and healthy pregnancy.
All right, so maybe I'll let you create the fake avatar, and we can go. Okay, what's the most common kind of story you see couples coming to you with? Like, they've been trying for X amount of years, or
Yeah, look, I do get those. Most of them have been trying for a good, look, between 2 and 7 years for most. Most would be over 35. I do see some younger couples. I do see some over 40 as well, even over 44. I've got a pregnancy at 44 at the moment, which is awesome. But yeah, probably over 35 and trying for between, 2 and 7 years would be my main avatar. And I get a lot of referrals from IVF clinics. Largely because IVF is an amazing technology, gets egg and sperm together, creates pregnancies that otherwise may not have been possible if there's blocked tubes and things like that. But if you don't have healthy eggs and you don't have healthy sperm, there is nothing IVF can do to improve that. So I get a lot of poor egg quality and poor sperm quality, and also unexplained infertility. Okay, we don't know what's going on, but they've had 7 failed cycles. And I guess I dig a lot deeper. Like, let's look into what's going on for both of you in my personal consultations. I'll spend over an hour with the couple, going way back to even their mother's pregnancy and before that, just to sort of learn the life their eggs have lived to find out what's going on for them.
taking substances and drinking a lot, is that going to affect your egg quality down the line?
Potentially. And that's where I really want the education to start younger about our fertility. I know my fertility awareness, or my, sex education was all about not getting pregnant. Like, that's all it was. There was nothing about cycles and how to actually get pregnant. And the fact is, there's only a 24-hour window that you have a viable egg every month. I mean, not that other message is not valid. Absolutely. We want to, portray the message that safe sex is really important, and not getting pregnant when you don't want to is really important as well. But we also need to be educated that, okay, we do have a fertile window too. We are most fertile in our early 20s, yet we're not having babies in our early 20s. That's, most people I know aren't having babies in their early 20s.
Yep.
So if we are looking to extend and prolong our fertility, then we need to, look at what's happening, because there is a 90-day development cycle for an egg and a sperm, by the way. But it develops from a small follicle into a mature egg, which is ready for release at ovulation. And that takes 90 days. So it's during those 90 days when the egg is most vulnerable to external influences. And that's why I like to work with couples ideally over that 90-day window, because the theory now is it's not so much that we have older eggs, that we have this store of old eggs and they're duds. It's the fact that those follicles, those tiny primordial follicles, which they start as, they're developing over those 90 days in an older body, which is exposed to, it's not maybe got as much energy. There may be need for more antioxidants, because it takes a ton of energy to create a mature follicle and egg ready for release at ovulation. And I think most people think that if I'm ovulating, I'm releasing an egg, there's a chance of pregnancy. In actual fact, even in our 20s, about 25% of the eggs that we release are not viable. They're not capable of creating a baby. So the fact that we may not be getting pregnant straight away is not necessarily an issue. In actual fact, quite a lot needs to align to create a pregnancy. And as we get older, 40, 50, sometimes 90% of those eggs are not viable eggs, because, as I said, the egg cell needs a ton of energy. There is more mitochondria, think back to, year 10 biology, in the egg cell than any other cell in the body. Because to get chromosomes to line up correctly and create that healthy DNA takes a lot of energy, and that's where we get a lot of chromosomal abnormalities. They're not lining up correctly and they're chromosomally abnormal. They may even go on to fertilize, but they're not going to create a baby. What we want is to create chromosomally normal eggs, and that takes a ton of energy. So we want to be using diet, supplements, healthy lifestyle to make that energy available to reproduction. If we're taking substances potentially that shouldn't be in our body, that's going to drain our energy and drain our body's resources that are diverted from creating healthy eggs and sperm. I've just actually been creating I'm doing a baby wall, just getting all the photos of one of the babies that I've helped bring into the world together. It's just been so wonderful to see all these beautiful, healthy babies. And absolutely, I've just hung up for a patient yesterday who was actually so nervous going into the birth. And she's 41 actually. And she had a beautiful birth. She's breastfeeding really well. She sailed through it. Bub's thriving. So absolutely, you get the environment right. And age is a factor, absolutely. But it is one factor, as I always say to my patients. I've seen healthier 40-year-olds than 26-year-olds in regards to their fertility well-being. So yes, you can make a massive impact. We can't change age, so I don't focus on it. It's a number we can't change. There are loads of other factors that we can change. So let's focus on that. I think the hard part is IVF is seen as the next step. And look, there's some amazing specialists that I work with that we work quite closely together, and they'll often refer and I'll refer across, which is great. But there's others who have got on the IVF train. I had one couple say to me, I wish I had found you 7 years ago, because I don't think we even needed IVF. And I've actually had one couple. She came to me after 7 years of trying. They'd have failed IVF cycles. I just started working with her and she was having a transfer that failed. And she said, I need a total break. I said, look, can you just give me some time? Because she said, I can't fall pregnant naturally. And I'm like, I said, I can't see anything in your results that telling me that. I know you've got your history, but let's just work with your cycle, work with your window, take some time out, de-stress. So we work with her diet, we work with some supplements, we nailed her window, we got her cycle ready. We were prepping to go to obviously IVF because that's what she'd been through. She was pregnant and she was 41.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's get specific here with the changes that we can make. So obviously we want to be aware of what our levels are. We want to be kind of aware of our lifestyle. Obviously, the people are coming in a little bit stressed out if they've been trying. Sounds like smoking's completely off the table.
Sorry. Yeah, but smokers, sorry, there is no alternative. Stop.
Makes sense, yeah. What about drinking, and what about certain types of foods?
Yep, absolutely. So alcohol, I always say, look, men can get away with a little more alcohol than women, but it's the standard Aussie Friday night, to be honest. It's the binge drinking that is the problem. So having, I always say, less than 5 stranded drinks a week and as close to 0 as possible, absolutely. For women, ideally want to keep it as close to 0 as possible, because alcohol can affect LH, FSH hormones, and we just don't know at what stage of our egg development where we're introducing that alcohol. But I also say, again, mindset, mental health comes into play. If you're going to a wedding and you want a glass of champagne, or if it's your birthday and you want to share a glass of wine, then, do that. I don't see that as a major issue. You may hear colleagues say otherwise, but as close to 0 as we can, being mindful about mental health and your own, ability to cope in the world. I know when I was trying to conceive, I hated everyone. Oh, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? No. Yeah. But so you almost pretend to drink just because.
Yeah.
So alcohol, yes. The other things, I guess, diet-wise specifically, a few key things that I say all my patients, and I talk a lot about this and give you a lot of recipes and things in my Your Fertile Pantry program, but go for colour. So I give, my fertility, Your Fertile Pantry program, people that, pretty much a kid's checklist. Have you got purple, green, reds, oranges, yellows. We want vibrant color. They provide phytonutrients, antioxidants, well above and beyond just their carbohydrate, and fat and protein content. They provide these extra antioxidants and phytonutrients, which are really excellent as we age, and particularly that blue-purple color. 90% of us aren't eating enough blue-purple.
Like
And
cabbage?
I saw purple cabbage. Yep, purple carrots, blueberries. And I saw a New Idea article one time. I don't know how truthful it is, obviously, New Idea. But the Mariah Carey has a purple day once a month. She has this purple day where she'll just eat purple. Don't know if it's true, but it makes sense.
Yeah, right. Okay.
From
Is
an
once a month
anti-aging.
enough to just eat all the purple things?
And I don't like to eat just purple. I'm big on variety. And also within that, don't just pick carrots. I'm going to eat carrots every day. No, go for pumpkin, go for carrots, go for oranges. Get a variety of those phytonutrients if you can.
Mhm.
They're great for anti-aging, particularly the reds in lycopene are great for sperm health. That's why I guess the Mediterranean style diet is really good in that way. Because also lycopene is one of the few nutrients that actually is enhanced by cooking. So if you think those beautiful, lovely, rich pasta sauces and tomato paste, they're actually richer than a fresh tomato would be in that lycopene. So color is great. The other thing is good quality protein. So making sure that we are getting enough protein and looking at vegetable sources as well, or vegetarian sources. So edamame, quinoas, legumes, all those things as well, because protein is a building block of our DNA, and getting good quality protein, not in the form of protein bars and things like that and packaged foods. We want to be really having everything as fresh, as seasonal, as close to the tree or the ground or where it came from as possible, because these days that's harder to do because things are frozen, thawed. I saw the journey of a kiwi fruit, it's a year before it hits the supermarket shelves sometimes, because they're picked underripe and then they're frozen and then they're, and then they're sort of shined up to hit the stores. Same with apples. So
oh, wow. That's really off-putting, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So the nutritional value isn't there. And especially, I'm generalizing, but things with a barcode, try to not go with things with a barcode. I always often say to people, avoid the health food aisle. And a patient went down the other day. She goes, "Oh my gosh, you are so right." Because yes, it may be gluten-free, but there's a ton of processed sugar in there, or there's just get normal, real food.
And if you want something sweet, have a date.
Your food should look like food.
Yeah. So basically, if it comes in a packet, try to avoid it as much as possible.
I'm generalizing, but yes, absolutely. Just get regular, healthy food. It doesn't need to be rocket science. Those things and those small changes can make a massive difference.
How much does weight contribute to our ability to conceive for both men and women?
It can contribute for both men and women. I think there's a focus on women in regards to this, and we forget about men. And yes, men are included in this. If men are overweight, it will affect their chances. Same with women. And I always look at weight as in, what is called, again, why? What is driving the weight? If you have insulin resistance, if you have a lot of sugar cravings, your blood sugar's all over the place, and I'll go through this with patients, then that's going to be really tough for you to lose weight. And your specialist might go away and say, hey, you need to lose 10 kilos. But that's a really tough ask when your body is craving out for sugar. So I use supplements to help to support you nutritionals, because if you're lacking in nutrients, your body's going to keep craving food, isn't it, to try and get them.
Right.
And so we want to get a baseline of all your nutrients, make sure that's all balanced. We want to use other supplements to help to support that blood sugar so that you're not getting those 3 o'clock cravings that, really, I always say, look, they don't stop chocolate tasting good. Caveat, that still will happen. But I've had patients say, oh my gosh, I don't feel like eating sweet things anymore. I don't have that craving after dinner. I don't have that 3 p.m. slump that makes me rush for the biscuit. Makes a massive difference. So teaching people actually, learning their metabolism, giving them the support they need, and then giving them a framework, which again, I'll give them recipes and menu plans in my program to make it a lot easier. to do with weight, and getting the right nutrients as well, definitely through our diet. But I do find supplements are a great support. And obviously I have my own prenatal that I created all those years ago in my epiphany on my winery tour. But taking the right supplement, again, it's about getting it absorbed into your bloodstream. So it's all well and good having a tablet that contains A to Z of all your nutrients. It's written on the label, so it must be in there, and sure, it's in there. But again, my background in product development, there are a ton of different magnesiums, there are a ton of different folates, there's a ton of different ions. Some are actually really cheap for the companies to get hold of, which is great. So I can just chuck that in there and write it on the label.
Yeah.
It's all well and good, that vitamin being in the tablet. It needs to get metabolized and absorbed and utilized where it needs to be. And that's why if your tablet is making you constipated or nauseous, then throw it out, because it must be just sitting in your gut. If it's actually being metabolized and absorbed, it can't be doing those things because it's not there anymore. It's being utilized by the body to do all the amazing things that it needs to do. And your levels are really good as well. So get the right supplement, the right form of the nutrients to be absorbed well into your bloodstream, and also see the supplements as your insurance policy. So I have a lot of people come to me taking a ton of supplements. Actually, they've got bucket loads. They go through them with me. I'm like, okay. But it's like instead of the healthy diet, like this is all the stuff I take because it makes me feel like I'm doing something. But no, we just live busy lives. So we just constantly take away. Yeah. That is not a replacement for a healthy diet. You can't have one. They're the icing on the cake. I see them. We need to get the foundations right. We need to get that really good quality protein. We need to get that good quality soluble fiber to help balance the hormones. We need to get the antioxidants. Then we can add some icing on the cake, which, obviously needed, particularly in my 40 plus patients. We really need to ramp up those icing on the cake nutrients, but we need to get the foundations right as well.
What about exercise?
Yeah, exercise is right up there as well. And that is something that, especially in COVID, I have noticed that it was like, oh, I used to go to the gym or I used to play netball and now I just don't. And incorporating some sort of exercise is so important, but don't underestimate the incidental exercise. Some of my recommendations are do 10 squats before you brush your teeth.
Right.
Don't go and say, I'm going to get right into this. I'm going to do an hour every day, because you won't. You'll be all enthusiastic for the next week and then you won't want to come back and see me because you haven't done it. Yep. So just find something that you can do. And I like to link it in with another habit you're already doing. So I'd say brush your teeth, because most of us brush our teeth every night.
Right.
So if you can just do 10 squats before you brush your teeth, that's going to add up every week. And then, okay, maybe we'll do 10 tricep dips when you get up in the morning. So it doesn't need to be massive. It just needs to be consistent, because that helps with metabolism. That's help with circulation. That's going to help, get us a healthy weight. It's about that environment, less stress, getting that healthy environment, but don't feel the pressure to go out and do, 1 hour workout a day that'll last a week and you'll fall off the wagon.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's like anything in life, it's consistency. Yeah. I said to my friend a while ago, like, I had to say, if I was like an alien and came down and spoke to a human and they're like, what's the key? What's the key to everything? I'm like, consistency with anything, right? Money, relationships, exercise. Yeah. And that's what we also struggle with so much, I think.
And I think that's what I see a lot of in my practice too. And I probably sort of fall into that category myself as well, is I see a lot of type A personalities, and they're so driven, they're successful, and they've got successful by striving harder and pushing harder. And that's the way that they're often impatient. And that's the hard part. Fertility is kind of the opposite. And so it's like telling them that everything that they've been doing up until now to make them successful is we need to shift that. And that's a big mental shift, because they're so willing. They rock up to consultations ready to, I'm going to do this. Absolutely. You say go organic, I'll go totally organic. I'll do this. Actually, take a deep breath. I'm going to talk about your evening ritual. and your
Right.
fertility ritual that I often get people to do before bed, because sleep is a major thing. Melatonin is a massive antioxidant. A lot of the
Yes.
specialists I work with
I've
prescribe
heard that.
melatonin. But you're not producing any because you're working, getting widening. I say call it recovery sleep is what people get. They crash and burn, they recover, and then they do it all over again. Yeah, put a hand up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's me.
totally. And when we want to talk about reproduction, when do we get to focus on egg health and sperm health? We
Right.
don't during the day. We're
Yeah.
too busy answering emails, running about. So overnight is a really good time where our body can focus on rejuvenation. So that's what I want to cultivate, rejuvenating sleep, not recovery sleep. So I get my patients to go through a ritual before bed that we can do to help to create that melatonin, because melatonin evolved before electricity, so that we were, it was slowly getting dark as we're outside, and it's slowly starting to kick in. Whereas we don't do that now. It's lights on, bright lights, Instagram, scrolling, screen, Netflix, and then, emails, and then crash and burn. So we want to be dimming the lights before bed. We want to be moving away screens. I love to read a good book, or I have a couple of patients that are knitting or crocheting, whatever we need to do to just get in that space before bed. I get you to do all the stuff you need to do the next day. Just get that out of your head, write a list. And then I get you to write down 3 things that you were grateful for that day. It can be as simple as I had a nice cup of tea this morning, or you know what, I nearly didn't make it to work on time and I made it, and so all's okay. Or it can be, I'm so grateful for I have awesome friends, just something that switches on those positive neurotransmitters, because whatever we're thinking about before bed, we incubate really well all night.
Mm.
And our subconscious goes crazy with that stuff. That's why you wake up at 3 a.m. going, oh my gosh, this is such a disaster. And then you wake up at 7 going, oh, really? Not such a big deal anymore.
What about freezing our eggs? Let's say we get to age, I don't know, I actually did some research a while ago, and the clinics that I was going to, they said 37, because I froze my eggs, and they were saying that 37 is the most common age for freezing your eggs.
Yeah.
I froze my eggs because of the pandemic, and I was like, I can't meet anyone. I can't go out. I can't do this. What are my options? So I was like, okay, let's put some eggs on ice and see what our options are later.
And I think it's a great idea. I really do. And I think we should actually look at our fertility earlier. Again, if you're thinking of having kids, get your AMH tested and checked. And if you're wanting to freeze your eggs, think of it like a pregnancy, because that insurance policy, or, for want of a better word, that you've taken out by banking your eggs is only as good as how viable those eggs are. And that's the perception, I think, with IVF. Well, if there's more eggs, there's more chances. If we're trying naturally, there's only one egg. And well, if I do IVF, there might be 15, there might be 30. But the way biology works is we still only release that best egg, or the dominant follicle that was going to be released at ovulation. So if that dominant follicle wasn't viable and wasn't going to create a pregnancy, then you could spit out 15 eggs and they're not going to be viable. They're not going to be capable of creating a baby. So you want to treat it like doing all the things that we've spoken about. Okay, I'm going to freeze my eggs. I'm going to spend the next 3 months. So I'm going to get my levels checked and see where I stand. Because sometimes if, your vitamin D is way down, you might need a little bit longer than 3 months to, make that nice and high again.
Mm-hmm.
So get your levels checked, look at your healthy diet, and then get the best insurance policy of that egg collection as you can possibly get. And I've supported a lot of women just towards an egg collection and getting that nice bank of eggs that they feel really confident and confident going forward, which is a great idea, because the reality is, yes, we've had the pandemic. It's been harder to meet people. A lot of us are working longer and, having our careers later. We may have by 35 just established the real role that we really love and are really enjoying.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to have kids for the next 4 years. And freezing eggs can be a really viable, good option then. But yeah, do the groundwork so that you've got the best eggs that you can provide.
What about if you're like a really forward thinker in your 20s? Would you recommend freezing your eggs in your 20s? And you're like, I know I want to have kids, but I know I want to have a career, so I want to do it later and I want to get the best eggs. Should you do it as early as in your 20s?
Look, it's a hard thing to say, but looking at the women that I see in their 40s, if they had have done that, absolutely it would have made all
Made a
the
difference.
difference. So yes, it's expensive, it's reasonably invasive. So look at it in regards to your situation, where you are in your career, and even get your AMH tested, even at 20. If you've realized you've now got a low ovarian reserve, it's just information. Oh, that's why I love information. I love as many blood tests as we can get. Like, just give me all the information to help me process. Information is power over your fertility. The more information you have about your own fertility, the more informed decisions you can make. So if you're 20 and you have a low ovarian reserve, then okay, it might be a reasonable option for you by 24 to actually freeze your eggs to make sure that you do have a reasonable reserve there, because you're likely to not be as fertile for as long. So getting those tests done early, getting that awareness. And I find women these days, and I'll include myself in that as well, even as a naturopath, we're disconnected with our bodies. We've been put on the pill for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We're disconnected with our cycles. We don't really know about, often, how long do you bleed for? What's the bleeding like? Or I use a tampon, don't really know how many days it comes and goes. Do you know when you're ovulating? Not really, but day 14 is usually, isn't that when you're supposed to ovulate? Most of us don't ovulate bang on day 14.
Mm-hmm.
So getting that awareness of your cycle and awareness of you and what's happening is really good. So get your AMH tested, have some investigations done, not necessarily anything invasive, just an understanding of what's going on in your body for your fertility. Then you can make informed decisions of whether egg freezing or what path is right for you.
Thanks for listening to the Rebel Love podcast, the podcast about love, sex, and relationships. If you like this episode, please support us by subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform, and find all the details of this episode and more at rebellove.com/podcast.